All right. Hello, Lucas. Could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Lucas. I post a lot of bullshit on Twitter. I work pretty closely with Remilia, Good Boys with Charlie, and work at Ox doing startup stuff, whatever's around. Usually a lot of like media, like marketing, design, direction, but like it is sort of like, anything in crypto is generally small enough that you wind up doing whatever seems fun if it is there.
So I got to see your account I think a year or two ago on Twitter. Very funny tweets. Sometimes you throw in some like really good knowledge in there. Uh, that's what makes it interesting. Is like some very interesting tweets. And then I took some time to like look into your account and like what you've done in the past. And I saw a lot of people have trained AI bots specifically on your tweets. So on Hugging Face, you can see one of the founders of Dolly Mini actually trained a bot on your Twitter account, and it's just like sitting there on Hugging Face. Very interesting stuff. Um, could you please introduce OX.FUN? So what do you guys do? OX.FUN. What do you do there? And yeah, what is it exactly?
Yeah, no. So OX.FUN is an exchange where you can basically use. And the interesting thing about the exchange really is that the entire thing is collateralized in the Ox coin. So it's not like a stable coin denominated thing. It's basically like the entire thing. If you took like a coin or an exchange that would have been written such that it was denominated in like, are you familiar with BitMEX at
I
all?
am, yeah.
So like in the way that they're all denominated in like Bitcoin contracts, Ox is just instead denominated in Ox contracts. So there's obviously like a given layer of like reflexivity built in where if you're trying to like deal with everything in USD, it becomes increasingly confusing. But if you just say like, okay, like I'm using a Bitcoin to long a Bitcoin or a Bitcoin to short a Bitcoin, it makes more sense. Uh, so the nice thing that lets you do is because there is like the exchange has the ability to, I mean, currently mint coins. It cannot actually go insolvent in terms of like a bank run or something like that. So they can take high risks on like tail assets or stuff like that. So you can list like meme coins at lower market caps. Uh, but currently, currently what they're going for a lot is sort of allowing you to use uh like alts as collateral. So if you have a lot of alts and because it when the exchange was founded, the idea was that people were going to have like, oh, like I'm gonna want to take my meme coins and I'm gonna want to long more meme coins, right? Like I'm gonna want to go like a multiple exponential long on my meme coins. But like looking at the user behavior, people were like, actually nobody does that. Like nobody in the entire universe does that. What they do is they take their meme coins and they're like, well, I can't earn yield on this, and I don't really like maybe it's like you don't want to like LP retardio because the range is big. It could like be, like a 3x from its current value someday. So even doing like a concentrated liquidity pool is a little bit scary. They don't have a great way to earn yield on that. And so they just want to say like, well, fuck it. I just want to long Bitcoin. Like a lot of people this cycle learned, especially as things went on, that they do want exposure to the orange coin. And maybe they feel like, okay, like I'm too poor to own it now. I would personally say like, I don't know, you should just buy it anyway. But they want to say like, okay, well, it's like if I go like 0.5x long Bitcoin or 0.5x long Solana, I'm probably not going to blow up. But I will still get exposure to like Bitcoin upside, right? And a lot of the existing exchanges right now just don't really allow coin collateral. They allow like stable coins or they allow maybe like ETH or Bitcoin or something like that. But after the series of like bankruptcy cascades last time, the idea of like something that allows full coin collateral where you can deposit anything and use anything as collateral is sort of like those exchanges don't really exist anymore. So that is now one of the things that Ox has identified as like a primary use case. The other thing that it has is like the strategies vaults where it they're fairly complicated for me to explain any amount of time that your viewers would care about. But the basic idea is that if you expect like Ether, Solana, or Bitcoin is going to range for a while, uh, then depositing something, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be Ox, it can be, like, again, like any coin really as collateral, uh, and then you earn emissions, as it trades grid botting this range. Now, if it goes above or below the range a lot, you sort of blow your asshole out. So I did that on Ethereum a few times because I expected it's like Ethereum was ranging for like 3 months, and I was like, it's probably just gonna keep ranging, and then it didn't. Then it would go like, one time it went straight up and blew me up, one time it went straight down and blew me up, so it's always a new way of losing with Ethereum, but
So I've played around with OX.FUN and Hyperliquid a lot over the last 6 months. They're the only ones that I could use without having to go through the whole KYC process. I'm a U.S. citizen living abroad. It's like a real pain in the
yeah.
ass. So I use these platforms, and um, OX.FUN reminds me a lot of what was it, Pump Fun, and also like the 4chan type vibes, I guess, compared to Hyperliquid.
So yeah, there's, I don't know how I feel really about, like, the design aesthetic at this point, like, I do have sort of, like, a very, it's like a very immature love for, like, the neon green, black, like, rave shit, but, I don't know. I am very undecided on how I feel about it. I don't I will say objectively, I don't actually like the little ox logo, like the one, the pixel image one. But yeah, no, I mean, the site honestly, like, when we first started doing stuff, it was sort of like, there's a bunch of problems here. Like, there were a lot of like, it was like FTX growing pains type shit, right? Where it's like you click a button and like maybe just nothing happens, and you're sitting there wondering like, is it ever going to happen? But no, like it actually, overall, has been pretty good lately. And now that there's, I mean, as OLP gets filled out, which it is now because like the season rewards are starting, and so that's all pumping a bunch. Uh, it's getting a lot easier to ship things with bigger size into the meme coin positions, and definitely the majors liquidity is getting pretty decent again.
So I've listened.
So that was
Sorry for interrupting you. Again, on the branding stuff, I don't know. It feels very unique to me. I think even though it might not be the most like aesthetically appealing for a mature audience, it just like looks good, and how it pops up and says like, oh, this person just longed, or this person sold or bought. I was trading the most during the Trump coin fiasco, and there was issues. I mean, it was like slow. Sometimes I would click sell. I wouldn't sell for a few seconds because things were just going crazy at those times. Um,
no, and everything was breaking. That was like, I do remember like last cycle when like CoinGecko, it would just take 90 seconds to like load the website, because it was basically getting DDoSed by like 100x in users. Like, the same exact thing, is now happening to basically any, like, Solana or, like, front end of any protocol during, like, the Trump coin launch, the Melania coin launch. Like, I mean, obviously, it, like, BTFO'd Solana's entire network. Uh, so it was interesting. Like, there were all these people saying, like, "Oh, like, when's retail gonna come?" And it's like, "Sir, like, retail is so here. They're DDoSing our servers with users. Like, they're very here. We're here.
so
Like, we're
you know
retail."
that what do you guys do in a state where that happens, right? Like it's a lot of stress all at the same time, and it's a short period, and if things don't work, you don't make like the most amount of money I would assume you make is during those like extremely high volatility situations. So when you have those issues happen, how are you? What's the life like working at OX.FUN?
During situations like that, there's a lot of like, I mean, we actually had a few like really rapid server upgrades that went on. We had a period where like we kept doing like marginal upgrades, and just saying like, okay, what if we like do this thing that allows just like a 2x bandwidth? And then, I mean, this was during a period where our DAU count was climbing really, really rapidly. And we basically just wound up like outpacing all of the server upgrades that we were, and we had, like eventually a full upgrade of like the comms app between the three engines that the exchange runs on. And things have been pretty good since then. But this was something that like I was largely uninvolved with. Like I don't really do anything on the dev side. So my role was mostly like, okay, like I am going to either like go out and do some sort of a spaces or a stream and like talk to people who are having issues and just like explain what's going on, or to like answer like a support ticket and say like, don't worry, like we didn't get like nuked or anything, and we're gonna try and get everything back as fast as possible, but like I'm simply not the guy. Like I don't know. There's a lot of I think in crypto because there's not a lot of people or there's a lot of people who have not necessarily worked like a corporate job before. You run into issues where like if somebody works at a company, you might assume like, okay, well, like this person does like everything at the company, right? So like if this person has this thing in their thing, then it's like, oh, like Lucas like does stuff with Remilia. So like I'm working on this thing or like I have this problem with this software. I can go to Lucas with this. And it's like I can usually like forward you to a person, but like I'm not gonna be fixing Milady chant for you. I'm not gonna be fixing like single sign on. You can tell me like, oh, like I've got this in my wallet and it's not letting me access this thing, and it's like I'm like I'm probably gonna say like that's fucking happened to me too. Like that's really annoying. I thought it was just me, bro. Okay, anyway, good to know. Like
Well, I think a lot of people's I mean, your account is probably the biggest that I know of in terms of who works at OX.FUN. I know there's a few others that I follow. So people probably think you are the face and the founder and like all that is to do with this project and also with Remilia because so you have Remilia. Why not a Milady? Is like a side question.
I have a Milady on the
You
site
know,
or
this
on
photo, like your profile picture. It's a
my profile
oh,
picture
it's
is
Milady. I thought it's a Remilia. I don't know why. It looks more like boyish. But
Oh, no, it's one of the, so there were actually some miladies that got, like, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, at the time, I don't remember whether it was just sort of like a lesbian haircut or if it was, like, actually intended to be a boy haircut, but, like, my first ever mint was actually, like, a double boy milady, just, like, normal boy miladies, uh and then I think I have, like, a non-standard blood splatter on there. I think I was gonna just toss on, like, the Remilio asset over it, but, there was a big glob of blood, like, a huge blood clot that just, like, covered up too much of it. It's too much red. It's too much red on
so
this shit.
why did you end up in this specific sphere of like the Milady sphere with Remilia? What drew you to that?
I don't know, I kinda just, like, go wherever, the people that I am talking to are. Like, when I first joined Twitter, it was, like, in the middle of COVID. I basically needed a gym, and somebody was like, "Yo, dude, there's these like esoteric racist lifter people who you might like." So I like made a Twitter account and started posting about like lifting, and then I met a bunch of like a bunch of the guys now who hilariously are like active in like Trump admin and stuff like that. But looked around, found like a way to put together a home gym, hung out with those guys for a while. And then at some point during all of that, I wound up meeting Charlie through like I don't know actually. We were both basically like on we were both basically involved in some sort of like funny propaganda war. And he just said hey to me at some point, and we had like a nice like 4 or 5 hour chat, and then he tossed me into a group chat, and that group chat later became Remilia. So, I don't know, like, when the Milady thing first started, like, I honestly didn't know what NFTs were at all, like, I had done crypto stuff, but I had kind of ignored NFTs because I was like, "Oh, these are, like, annoying art people who are now, like, coming into crypto," right? So, like, whenever they said anything, I was just like, "Yeah, I don't wanna deal with this." But, then they started, like, compiling all the assets for, like, Milady and stuff like that, and yeah, I don't know. I put it on because I was like, well, Charlie's my friend, and it was fun. Like Milady at the very beginning, it was like there were like 6 of us who were in that group chat, just like posting normal shit that we would, but just all with like Miladies now. And it just eventually grew, I guess. Like people on crypto Twitter were like, well, if we like this style of thing, let's join in and do it ourselves.
So I got into crypto around like 2017 mainly to buy drugs online. That was like my calling specifically.
That's
And
a
then
little early, but yeah.
um I've heard about it before, but I was too young to really understand or care or have enough money to invest. But around 2021 is when I started like full-time working in this space doing like my whole life became just like crypto sphere people. And I saw the rise of like the apes and it felt so I think these are like two really good examples of how to grow a brand like very quickly the apes were the first, and Milady also seems, but Milady seems a lot more organic. So when that happens, it's not about just like getting famous people on to buy one of these things and hold one of these things. It's just really good posts. So there's you and Scarpo or Skirpo. I don't know how to
Yeah,
pronounce his
list
name.
policy.
He's
It's all
great.
it yeah, it's basically it's scorched earth policy, and then I think he did, like, an abbreviation or something like that for his actual @ so it's, like, at SCEARPO.
His posts are so good. Like I could read those every day, and it's just not boring at all. Like I try to read Charlie sometimes. It's just too heady for me. I can't focus on it. I don't know what's trying to
That's
happen. It's like
probably the same thing for me sometimes, yeah. Like, I understand when I see people replying to him saying, like, "I'm confused." Like, I have the same feeling sometimes.
so you do marketing. So that's your role at OX.FUN? You also have a podcast, or I don't know. Do you still run the podcast?
Yeah, I do, I mean, I've actually gotta hit him up, for recording something else, but it's like I've been doing daily streams with Sue and Enzo and Sayuki, I think about 2-ish, maybe 3-ish weeks now, but we're just gonna keep those running, so, every morning at, like, 9-ish Taipei time, run it for a few hours, probably gonna need to get someone to clip those up, now that I'm thinking about this, but yeah, the podcast too, there's honestly, at this point, there's a couple podcasts across, like, crypto and, like, other things that I've worked with. I used to do some media too, with industry that I was in before I quit and went into crypto, uh, and, I mean, the marketing comes down to a lot of, I mean, it's mostly, like, guerrilla stuff, like, in crypto, almost everything is guerrilla in some capacity because you're, like, you can't really run ads, right? Like, in theory, you can, like, run Google ads, but it mostly involves, like, a lot of, like, fraud about, like, what you're actually selling. So it's like you just don't really run Google ads. And you can't really use mailing servers or, like, the traditional, like, cold outreach, like, mailing lists because similarly, like, most email servers, like, if you're selling anything involving cryptocurrency, you're in a basket that is, like, it includes, like, gambling and, like, sale of, like, dick pills and stuff like
Also, the
that.
average person in crypto, or like the average buyer, is extremely paranoid. So if you just like cold message them, I don't think they would be, yeah, into trying.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things that make it, like, a really weird industry to actually do stuff like this with, and, like, I mean, it's the same thing really with, like, all guerrilla or influencer marketing is, like, in the end, you basically just wanna find people who, like, actually either like the team enough that they're willing to sit there and hear it out, or like the product enough because it fills some market need that they have, right? And, like, the whole thing where you say, like, okay, like, I'm gonna find, like, the top 10 KOLs and just pay them, like, 50K or whatever, like, I don't actually think it works because, like, if somebody has, like, a following, it's usually because they have, like, somewhat of a personality, right? And, if their personality is coming through the posts and then you see them endorsing something that is, like, it doesn't make any sense that this person would like or support or care about this whatsoever, right? It sort of detracts from the overall, the message, like, the shill of it all, right? And, like, this is why I don't really do hard shills and, like, I don't really shill this much anymore, because I'm not actually, like if I went out and did, like, a hard shill, everyone would just instantly be like, "Oh, like, someone paid Lucas to do this hard shill," because it's not how I, like, naturally operate, right? Uh, so, like, there will be things where, like, maybe 3 months ago, I found I found one of the SoulSeek devs. It's like a peer-to-peer file sharing platform that, like, I got a bunch of music from when I was younger, and I saw him at a party. I didn't know who he was, but, he was, like, dysphoric in the corner, like, everybody else was having a good time, and he was just sitting there, and he was like, "I feel like now is just it's the best time in, like, all of history to do P2P file sharing because everyone has so much storage space on their phone and on their computer, and, like, it's just so easy, like, you don't have to rely on streaming platforms, but, like, our DAUs just keep going down, and I don't understand why, so, like, the next day, I made some, like, shill post about, like, how I was using, like, SoulSeek to just it was like, you don't actually need to, like, you don't actually need to be, like, streaming everything anymore. It doesn't make sense. You can literally download your entire local media library for like 50 gigs and just put it on your phone. And now you never have to deal with this goofy like, oh fuck, I'm about to get on the plane. Did I remember like download all my podcasts or am I fucked? Uh and It got like 20K likes or something, and I was like, finally we've achieved his dream of like the Soul Seek DAU thing. There were also some people who assumed that that was like a paid thing, but like I don't even know if Soul Seek has money to pay people. Maybe they did and they're just scamming me. But like, I mean, it's like it's a P2P file sharing thing. Like I'm pretty sure like it may actually just be open source. Like what are they? Where's the ad budget, right? Uh, I don't know. Where I'm getting is like I think people naturally promote products that they like, whether or not they get paid for it. Uh, like I will shill the Aura smart ring because it has out of all of this like goofy wearable trackers, it has the best like sleep tracking outside of like an Apple Watch, right? I will shill the Pixel Watch 3 because I'm a diehard Android spurg. Just all of these goofy things. Like I can give you a bajillion reasons why I would buy like a Chinese cleaver over like a German chef's knife or a Japanese chef's knife. Uh, but also like my followers would know if I started promoting like McDonald's and some like McRib offering that they had or something, they would be like, this doesn't seem like it came from Lucas. Like this is a very like it's a very non-Lucas opinion. Who got in? Like who got him with the brain ray, right?
So if I think about myself, like when I go on social media, when I see an ad, I basically do my best to remove it in any way possible. I pay for all the services that have ads on them so that I don't have to see the ads. I have ad blockers on all my devices. If I see something like a billboard, I actually like turn around. I don't want to look at it. And I don't know if that actually works for people. So the question I have here, because I'm not involved in marketing at all. It's actually probably my weakest point. I've been doing this podcast for almost 3 years, and I just have like 1,000 viewers, maybe. I don't market anything. I just put them up, and like if somebody finds it, that's fine. The question is like, do you think this traditional marketing actually works on people, or is it just these companies have an absurd amount of money? They're able to throw it at anything, and maybe it converts because I've never clicked on anything. And everybody I know never clicks on anything. So it's hard for me to envision that.
I think with like information and content style marketing, the idea is a lot less that you're going to be creating demand through the marketing and more that you're just going to be like aligning your viewership with people where the demand already exists. There's some extent where you can like create demand, whereas like if you grow like a large enough personality on the internet, people will want to like listen to things that you have to say just because they develop like a parasocial relationship with your account. So I guess that is like a way that you can create demand. Uh but like overall, I really do think that like in general it appears content just kind of goes. Uh I've really tested the absolute bare retard minimum of this with like the Verse and Lucas podcast because it's like it. I don't even like shill my own podcast. Partially, I assume for the same reasons that you don't do it yourself. There's something that feels like deeply grotesque about like suggesting somebody burn like 3 hours of their time listening to you talk. Like it just feels like insanely narcissistic. Uh, and so like I didn't really touch that at all. I still don't really. There was a period where we had like an intern who came in and he would like clip up parts that he thought were funny and put like an ASMR like Minecraft clip in the background, maybe speed it up a little. And then repost it. And that was awesome because like that's someone else shilling my own thing as opposed to me shilling my own thing. However, that intern because he was also just like a genius savant, wound up raising like $12 billion for some like gaming or like it was like a gaming company, but then it like pivoted to like financial like fintech transactional security. And so he like raised 12 million and he does that instead now. So we're back to having like absolutely no shilling of the
So I actually wrote, like, I think this is another, again, 2 maybe years ago, 3 years ago, I wrote an FFmpeg script that takes the audio of the podcast, and then I have like a folder of all these Minecraft and like those cars and like the I don't know, the I don't remember what it's called, like the Play-Doh stuff. And it would just like automatically attach, and then I don't even post them. I don't have that drive, but I think there is like value to that because so if I think about myself, like I usually go on Twitter. Um, the way I found your podcast was through that clip with the people just want to buy the dog with the hat. The
Oh yeah.
yeah, so that was hilarious, right? And it's a great way to like this is the best of what you can get. So listen to a few podcasts. It's a great way to advertise because you're not taking up too much of my time. I'm not like making a conscious investment. I'm just going through and going through my daily scroll fest and seeing something that might be interesting and then that might take me to better content. Long form content is pretty good for you. Right? This short clip stuff because usually I'm like scrolling Twitter, so it's like a funny video, a person getting disassembled, another funny video. It's like really
Yeah.
not great for you because you're getting randomized slop that could be very harmful for your mentality. What does the top of funnel look like for you? What's your like marketing? Wouldn't call it strategy, but what is your routine?
For which thing, I guess. For everything is kind of like personalized, especially in because crypto gets really weird on its own too because of the aforementioned fact that like 90% of your conventional funnels are just like unavailable. But I actually kind of like the conventional funnel mechanisms when they're available, but they just aren't usually in crypto. And it's like for a podcast, it doesn't really like most of the time it makes more sense to just like test PMF, right? And like testing PMF sounds like absurd in the context of like a podcast or something like that. But like there are some people who people will just listen to if they talk about anything. There are some people who are like domain matter experts where it's like someone wants to hear them talk, but like it's like if you take someone like one of the Chinese like gene editing guys who like invented CRISPR and he did all of this experimentation, and then you ask him like what he thinks about like dating or something or politics, uh, people are probably not going to want to listen to that as much. They're going to be like, this guy should like stick to his thing, and now he's gone off into a territory where I no longer care about this. Uh, so it's sort of like understanding like what do people actually want to hear about from the content. And this is basically impossible. Like in order to spin any of this up, there needs to be some feedback loop. So there does actually need to be like some existing user base. You can also just do it by showing it to people in person. But you have to make sure that you're showing it to the right people and not showing it to like, because like if I would go and show it to not my mom, but a generic mom, right? My mom would say like, no, this all sucks. You're a retard. But if I showed it to a generic nice mom, she might just say like, oh no, this is all so great. Like you're so funny in all capacities and facets. But like, you need someone who will be like brutally honest and say like, this was retarded. I don't care about this. And you also need someone who's like self-aware enough to know when they do or don't care about a thing in a way that may not be applicable to like the general populace. And eventually, if you like have a large enough account or you start growing stuff enough, you just get this built in, right? Like there's always some sort of feedback loop. This is one of the biggest advantages actually to just having like a largish Twitter account is it just gives you like an insane model of the normie brain, right? You can actually just train really, really elementary models off of the replies to your tweets and realize like a lot about like I mean even just from sentiment analysis you don't even need to go into like oh this is how this person thinks of it but like what do they like or dislike. And with writing especially it's harder, but if you're doing like podcast stuff it gets a lot easier because when you can hear like the intonation of someone's voice you can tell if they're joking or not. With words there's this goofy thing where like the concept of bait almost wouldn't exist over like a video form. Instead, it's like this, like the Zoomer, like cringe core, like slop stuff that they do, where it's like, that it's supposed to be like retarded slop. It's like intentionally like it's like post cringe or something, but it's not like it's tricking you, right? Because the content creator usually knows like, oh, I cannot actually do something that would trick them. Because it would seem too disingenuous. So they instead just go like full on like max 11, like 11 out of 10 intensity in the cringe core direction. Uh, and I
One thing you said there, I think that's very important is so we have all these like models that we can train on people, and what YouTube does with its algorithm is it creates like a puppet of you essentially based on your habits, and then it basically feeds it content that you might or might not like, and then it uses that puppet in order to build your recommendation list. And I think there's a way to like do the same process but for your commenters and the people that you're listening to, so you can create this like autonomous training ground of both the creator and all of the people that are listening to try to find the best fit. But then you run into this problem. So I like going back to scorched earth policies, probably my favorite like internet writer for sure. I've seen people in his comments or people that are following him that try to replicate that style of I don't know if it's humor or just writing, and it fails. Like it's not. It's obviously like you're taking someone else's style, and it doesn't work. So these AIs are like trained on specific people, and when you try to use their data, it comes off as disingenuous. You have to build your own style, and that only comes with like maybe thousands and thousands of tweets plus um plus luck, because you never know. Like you might be the first person to comment on an Elon post and just explode from there. So it's like how do you balance the luck part of it with the actual effort put in, and how do you get the right data so that you can improve over time. I've seen a lot of Twitter accounts that are there for 10 years and they still at like a few hundred followers. It's kind of crazy. Uh, to go back to that question, which is like, what's your strategy? So you're one of the people that has like a pretty organic account, and you've used that in order to market multiple different things. Um, is that how you're
I
tackling
honestly
a lot?
honestly, a lot of what I use my account for is, like, my account is less so like a marketing platform and more so like, the main use of my account has been to, like, train me on, like, how the average normie brain thinks. So it's like, if there needs to be, like, copywriting or something for, like, a product description, uh I have a really good model of, like, I can look at this copy and read this and say, like, "If you put this out, nobody will know what the fuck this means." Or, like, "If you put this out, this will be seen as inherently, like, misleading or deceptive because of XYZ, like context gaps," or something like that. And, I mean, a lot of that is what goes into, like, the marketing materials, because usually in crypto, when you're, like, marketing the thing, there's some degree of presentation of the product or presentation of the front end, and so it needs to be, like, polished up to an extent, uh, but there is also just, like, a large degree of, like, marketing as, like, cultural fit in that, like, if you I guess marketing as like, there's enough cabals in any industry, but in crypto specifically, it's like if you piss off every single rich person in crypto, your product will just get sort of like blackballed, right? And you can get over this. Like in the beginning, Remilia was like extremely blackballed by like all the existing like OG cabals and stuff like that. And you can just like swim upstream and make it work. It's sort of painful and hard, and it takes much longer than it would if you were accepted. So it's always nicer if there's some degree of like an in with people or like a social massaging that goes on, which is like I guess another form of like maybe you could call it like growth or BD or something, but it's basically just like if if you wanna work with people or exist in the same space, like, there should be a sense of, like, how do you do this without, like, pissing them off or feel like you are, like, vampiring their product or their community? How do you, like, do an integration with someone and, like, what is a deal that could be proposed in which both parties benefit? Uh as opposed to, like in crypto, you'll get a lot of these things where people say, like, "Oh, like, I wanna partner with this person," and then they're like, "Yeah, they got, like, VC backing, let's ask them for 400K." And then both parties do this exact same thing, so now both parties come to some sort of, like, a Google Meets, and now they say, like, "Yeah, so we were thinking, like, could you give us, like, 400K?" And then the other guy's like, "Ah, we were thinking, like, you could give us 400K." And it's like, this is, like it's just obviously, like, a retarded deal, right? Like, uh, you wanna be saying something like, "Okay, well, like, we will like link to your front end on this because we think that like we have a user base that would like this part of your product, and like will you put like our name in like your podcast or whatever." Like this is obviously a very stupid generic example, but the basic idea is that there's always some way that you can work with someone and make a deal that like benefits both of you, where both of you are giving each other something that like costs you nothing but will be very valuable to the other party. uh And it's like, I don't know, maybe one person gets like a slightly better or a slightly worse deal than the other, but it doesn't matter because if you didn't do the deal, you would both be in a worse place anyway. So yeah.
I noticed anyone that's here for like over maybe a year or two is basically one hop away from any personality in crypto. So like getting to what's his name, to Vitalik is as easy as just like just messaging. I don't know, maybe you know him or maybe Amin Soleimani. It's like very easy to get to people. It's a tight space and there's a lot of competitors and how do you interlink? And also another thing that I noticed because I work in the business side, I'm software and research. Um, is money's just like moving in a circle, right? So I give you money, you give him money, he gives me back the money in like 3 months. It's moving in a circle, and it's not. I don't know if it is or isn't expanding. I think that we had like a big growth in 2021, and I'm not sure where we stand. Like, do we have more users? Do we have less users? Have people been burnt so much that they don't want to interact anymore? I guess I loop this back into a question about you seem to talk a lot about the market, and it sounds better than like most people that I hear speaking about this. What do you think is like the current state of this market, and where do you think it's going?
I have heard more crypto founders this cycle, or just like people who have been OGs saying like, I'm done with crypto, like, I'm going into some other industry. This whole thing is, like, sort of, like, they're all getting depressed out. Like, there have been bear markets where people, like, blew up or, like, lost money, but this is the first time where it's, like, there are a lot of people who, like, they even if they have a lot of money, they're not necessarily, like, rage quitting because they went broke. They're rage quitting because they've been black-pilled on, like, the direction of the industry and the technology, and, like, I do actually kind of think that, like, meme coins wound up being sort of, like, a spiritual net negative, in that, like, it seemed really fun at first, I think, for everyone to say, like, "No, no, no, like, there's no promises, so, like, it can't technically be a scam if there's no product provided, and, like, it's all just, like, fun and games, and we know, like, it's just gambling, we're just it's the same thing it's always been, just, like, mask off." Uh, but I think the end result of this is, like, when you accept that ideology as, like, that's what crypto is, it sort of inclines people towards being more okay with, like, scamming and other, like, just negative behaviors, and it also, like, disillusions them. Like, this was the first cycle where you had people coming in saying, like, "Oh, I'm going to sell at this price," or, "Oh, I'm going to sell when I make this much." Like, it wasn't, like, common in the past that everybody would come into the cycle already knowing, like, "This is a scam, I'm going to exit at some price." Like, "I'm buying because I think this is a scam, but despite that, it will go up, and then I'm selling again because it's a scam," right? Like, in 2020, everyone legitimately thought they were building the future of finance. In 2017, similarly, everyone thought they were building the future of finance. Now, like, if you say, like, the future of finance in reference to a project, people will basically assume that you are, joking. You're, like, ironic, right?
Yeah, it's a
Like,
meme.
you're mocking what was the past idealistic belief of people last cycles. Uh, so, like, I don't, like, necessarily blame anyone who developed, like, meme coin infrastructure or who does it, but I do think that in the end, if the industry does not trend towards, like, some semblance of, like, valuations based on actual ability to, like, generate revenue or provide, like, a real useful product in the world, I think it is going to blackpill the fuck out of devs and, people in the community to the extent that they will either become evil or quit, right? Like, I don't think it's necessarily great that that becomes a main part of the thing. I think, like, meme coin casino is pretty much always gonna be around, and I do think that there were a lot of new retail people onboarded. There's a lot of people saying that, like, I think there aren't as many retail traders as, there are people saying, like, "Oh, I think retail still isn't here yet," right? But retail did actually come. It's just that retail this cycle, like, they put on, like, a retardio profile picture, and, like, you just didn't notice because they actually blended in with you. Like, the retail was here on CT. Like, the retail many of them just skipped CT, went straight to fucking Telegram. They were literally, like, in the trenches using trading bots. Like, I met people on university campuses. Like, we went around and it was either, like, people knew nothing about crypto and thought it was a scam, or they were like, "Oh, yeah, I bought, like, X, Y, and Z on BonkBot or something," right? Uh, so there were, like, a lot of new users onboarded through this, and they just didn't really get clocked as, They didn't get clocked as retail because you go on crypto Twitter and like your average Solana native was not like DeFi literate enough that like they could stand out from retail, right? Like they
Yeah.
look the same.
Well, so going back to when I basically started being interested is I could buy drugs online. So that was like a revelation, right? I could use Bitcoin and PGP keys and buy drugs. And that was for me, that was like future of finance. That I felt that because at that point it was a really difficult, cumbersome task to go and find weed, let's say, or whatever, from a dealer. It's
Yeah, and like
dangerous.
this sounds dumb. This sounds really dumb to like many people, but like you actually don't really want to deal with drug dealers. If like I mean, I did this when I was buying like meth in college, right? Like you don't really want to find like a meth dealer. You don't want to be tasked with that.
Yeah.
Uh
And then seeing reviews online, you can know like, oh, this guy fucks with this stuff and it's probably like gonna kill you. This guy doesn't. Like it was a much better system. And so that started, and then I started meeting people who work in the sex industry. They also use it as a payment system, and it started like I started building this idea that, well, this is a system for people that are not normies. It's very advanced. It's technically complicated. And then as time went on, it just became more and more dumbed down. And when Pump Fund started blowing up, I think it was spring last year. I made maybe like 15K in 2 days just trading. Almost a third of everything I bought would go up and break the bonding curve and maybe get to like I was the third person to buy Mimani token. It was like one of the Remilia or
oh, nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was the third person on Pump Fund to buy it, and I had like 3% of the supply, and it was just it was awesome. I didn't make that much money. I sold like as soon as it went up a little, I sold, but I tried again on Pump Fund maybe 3 months ago, and everything I would buy would just go to zero. So it's all
Yep.
botted now. It's all systemized. It's not really PvP anymore. It's like there are
Well, no, I mean
people.
the craziest innovation to the pump fund like scam thing was that like you know the pump fund like buy ticker, how they have that big shaking fucking logo on the front site whenever there's like a like point 0.1 soul buy or more. When everyone figured out that like in order to promote your coin, you should just always be washing point 0.1 soul buys through the bonding curve. That's when it just became like an epilepsy generator on the front end, right? Like there was nothing that could be gleaned from that. And like I mean, this is the big thing with crypto is that because it's like an inherently financialized industry, anything that can give you an edge winds up getting botted, and it costs much less money to bot the thing than it does to than you get for like actually botting it, right? You see this with accounts all the time. Like even when Fantasy Top came out, it became profitable for people to bot people who they were playing in the Fantasy Top deck, right? Like there were a lot of people who were like, "Why the fuck am I getting so much engagement now after?" And it's because people will buy their card in Fantasy Top and then play it in the deck, and then they'll bot the fuck out of you because they want to win that week, right? Uh, it's the same thing with being a KOL. Like if you just buy yourself like 100 followers and then you do it gradually and everyone goes and they DM everybody and says like, yo bro, like follow me back, like you have such great posts, bro, like I just hit you with the follow, man, hit me back. People will do this all the time, and I used to not really know what was going on with that, so I would be like, oh okay, sure, I guess I'll follow this guy back. But then I realized, wait, it's because he's specifically going around to like a list of like 500 big accounts in the sphere so that he can get mutuals, because then when people look at his account, they'll see that they have mutuals with him and follow him back and assume that he's legitimate. So when somebody does that to you and they come and they say like, bro, please like follow me back, like if you don't know the guy, you actually should just not, because he's actually trying to scam your friends. uh and he can do it for $0 because it costs no fucking money to do that. It costs maybe $400 to bot up like 100K followers. It's like totally trivial compared to the fact that like if someone gets one KOL promotion deal, that can pay them like 10K, right? So like it's literally like an instant ROI for people doing this in crypto.
I
It will
think there's
break every.
also this so on Upwork, like when you're a software or whatever service you provide, if you go on Upwork, you see this race to the bottom in terms of prices. And this really makes the problem much worse because now you have countries that are like third world countries, they don't have a high earning power. They can just sit there all day and basically try their best to either grow their followings or scam people, or even if it's for $10. So when you as a person that maybe comes from a first world country, you have money, and you go in, you see, oh, this is such an interesting sphere, and you jump in, and then every time you go, somebody's scamming you, even if it's for $1 or two, even if it's not something that's harming you in the long term. It's just very negative. I don't want to be constantly feeling paranoid and feeling like everybody around me is trying to scam me in some way. So when I go on Twitter now, all these KOL accounts, it's like there's a whole list of them. I see them all the time, and I block them, and then they pop up again with new accounts, and they're always like shilling meme coins. I fell for it a few times. People I followed for a long time, they put up, I buy something and then it goes down. And I don't think anybody necessarily is immune to this. Like your own friends can do it. Like somebody that you know in this industry might want to make some money and head out, and they could scam people around you.
Well, I mean, often people don't even know that they're doing it. Like, this was actually one of the more devious innovations this cycle was, like, using, like, large front-facing accounts to promote things in ways in which they didn't even necessarily know they were promoting something that was going to get rugged. But now they're the one like, the Hawk Tuah token was, like, a really easy example of this, right? Like, the girl I don't even know what happened. Like, I'm speaking totally out of my ass here, but, like, I would be willing to bet a lot of money that the girl herself was not the primary beneficiary of that thing rugging, right? There was a coin launch team that did what all the coin launch teams did, which is go around and say, like, yo, bro, like, we're gonna launch you this coin. It's gonna make you millions of dollars. And then they wind up like bundling all of the supply and then like dumping all of it onto their followers and basically laundering their reputation to make money on this coin. This happens in like smaller ways in that like people will go to their friends, and like if you have a friend with a big account, like I had so many people going like, "Oh, Lucas, you should launch this. Oh, Lucas, you should promote this." And for some of them, like very early on, like I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. Like these are my boys. I'll like shill their coin." And then like they rug, and now people are mad at you. They're not mad at them, right? And you're like, wait a second, like I see how this works. I see how this works now. Like, I'm not gonna shill the thing that I can't actually control, right? Like, I'm not gonna tell you to buy the thing if I know that there's some other guy out there that can make buying the thing really fucking bad for you. Uh, so you kind of just have to like ignore it outright, with the exception of like Bitcoin or something like that. Like, even like even there was a period where like I was like, I can't even shill like Avalanche without
Yeah.
and I guess I was like inversely shilling Avalanche. I was saying like, I think Avalanche is doing some interesting things. You should use it. I wouldn't necessarily say buy the AVAX token. It seems like it's still going down, but at some point when the unlocks are done, it might be good. But then I also learned I learned that there's a reason why it might not be good to buy after the unlock. So I just altogether stopped saying anything about Avalanche price action. But in the end, I'm basically saying, yeah, like everybody wound up uh finding a way to use people with big followers for like exit liquidity, and the naive ones of those often wound up accidentally scamming their friends repeatedly.
And if you've done it once, it's much easier to do it again. Like you can see, oh, well, there's like 20, 50, $100,000. If you get paid 10, maybe the other guy's making 1 million off of you. So there's a huge incentive to do it. If you know how to grow an account, I think people like if somebody took your Twitter, you could probably blow back up to the same amount of following, if not more, because it's an event and people like it's a cool story. Um, I used to tell people, okay, buy Bitcoin, buy ETH, buy Sol. Even my uncle, like recently, he called me a year ago, and I spoke to my mother today, and she said, "Well, so your uncle, he called me. He was like, I'm trading on Binance with leverage. I'm buying this coin and that coin. So just buy these three and just chill out and stop trading leverage." And he got wrecked. And I think it was that point, like 6 months ago, I sold everything. As soon as he called me, I'm like, okay, well, I know where we are. Like it was during the
Yeah, yeah,
Bit crash. Like I know where we are. This makes sense. So I guess I wanted to talk to you a bit about like so first, like you're involved in Remilia. They're getting themselves into politics, and um an extension of this is like the Trump
We're
coin.
finally building out Remy Chat. Charlie finally got the hires to build out Remy Chat, which is basically his version of the everything app, I guess.
It's gonna
Probably
be
a little. I think it's actually going to be a really fun one. It's something that he's been thinking about. Like, I mean, you can sit Charlie down and he can talk about like Remilia and like Remy Chat specifically for like 16 hours. I'm not going to try and redo his pitch for it, because it's like I'm going to like sully it by doing a shittier version than he would.
I'll try to
But
have
like
them on.
there's yeah. That would probably be a much better way to explain it, I think. Uh but he basically has a version for the internet that is it would push people towards both a much more like market efficient and a much more hygienic usage pattern, right? Because currently internet usage patterns are, I guess you could say, like very unhygienic, right? Like you're talking about like short form media and the way that ads are like served to you. All of this is handled in like a sort of very grotesque way. Uh, and a lot of it is handled this way because like advertisements have been had to you had to shoehorn ads into everything like retroactively because platforms weren't actually designed to have like revenue streams, right? Like stuff like Discord, it functioned and it existed as a product because it would sell user data. Like that was the business model. But then as every single social app started selling user data, they were like, wait a second, fuck, we actually have no revenue because we can only sell our user data for 3% of the price that we were getting like 10 years ago. So now they just have to like start charging. So they'll be like, what if we did subscriptions, bro? What if we did, I guess we can put ads in? And these are the only two answers that anyone has, right? Both of them are very heavy handed and, they don't really allow like a good economy to flourish, I guess. Charlie's version is much more like if you're forming like a communal ecosystem, you should be a beneficiary of this. It should directly have capital flows to you. There should be a more direct way for you to do advertising yourself, of your own things, of your own services, etc. Like it should not just be this big like corporate thing plugged into everything. And communities will naturally like a big thing that Remilia is very good at is like hyper niche ad targeting essentially, right? Like hyper niche demography. This is something that I have really thought that boomers were eventually going to figure out. Like they were eventually going to figure out there's a lot of very unique subcultures on the internet, and like all of them have very specific like in group like dialects and like product preferences and stuff like that. And you can increase the impact of your ad targeting by like literally a factor of 10 or 20. Like you can increase conversion rates by like literally like a factor of 20 if you hit them right, as opposed to just saying like, oh, these guys are in like the Bay Area, like maybe they want a MacBook or something, right? That's very poor ad serving. But boomers just appear to not get it. Like I don't know if it's like the level of individuation required in their like mental model of people doesn't exist, but
I think
people under
it's
like
disconnection from the, like, actual technology, like, I remember back in and I'm sorry for interrupting you, in the 2010s, 2000s, when I would go on the internet, it would be, like, forums and blogs, and it's kinda like you build a sphere, like, you're basically choosing the sources of information that you're getting, so now you go on something like Twitter that's just like a single feed that contains everything as opposed to, like, finding the right products and combining them together to have, like, a online personality that's unique, and so that I when I look at what Remilia is doing with some Milady Chan, the Milady, what the Milady Craft, all these different products. It's like you're building your own ecosystem and sphere, and I think that boomers never really understood that. Like when they could. So they never really used the technology like this. I look at my dad and he just switches phones every year or so because he forgets a password. Like they're very disconnected. It's hard to teach someone all the steps needed to end up at a smartphone. Does that make sense?
well, I yeah, no, that does make sense, but I think a lot of it is actually that there was such like a uniculture going on for the whole boomer thing that so if I were to tell you like a series of traits about like let's say a girl, like I say like okay, she's a nurse, she has these tattoos, she listens to this music, right? You could likely come up with a very specific demographic of like what this girl would like. You could probably actually plan out a list of date ideas that she would dislike or like. You could probably guess what her situation was like growing up. Like you could almost have like a 90% resolution full image of like what her entire life is, right? Based on like maybe 10 total traits. Uh and this is just something that like I think boomers like they won't say like if you give them that information, they won't be able to draw the correlates. They just don't have that mental model of people for whatever reason. And it's completely cucked them with like advertising and ad
This
serving.
throws me right into so Netflix has this show called Babies, because I had a son about a year and a half ago, and I watched this show, and so, like, a baby until the age of 1, they can distinguish between different like, so let's say this is a white baby, they can see multiple black people and distinguish between each one, uh, by the age of 1. But as soon as it's like the age of 3, now they don't distinguish between different black people. They lose the ability to distinguish between people because they're not using that trait. Like they're mainly seeing their white parents, their white communities. Same with other races. Like this isn't about a race thing specifically. And boomers, they grew up in a time where there wasn't this internet where you could see like, oh, this is a goth girl, this is an alt person, this is somebody that works
Yeah.
like a gym bro. Like you see your community, and that's pretty much it. So this ability to distinguish and like categorize people, they didn't have the data set, they didn't have the experience, and so they probably lost that. And it makes sense because what you're saying is true. Like I could probably talk to someone for 15 minutes and kind of start pinning like different things on them, and you can.
Yeah, no, like, this is something that I've started using my Twitter for a lot more is, like, you can actually just collate replies from people, and you can build out like, what my goal now is to see, like, what is the smallest amount of questions that I can ask someone, or the smallest amount of variables that I can use to provide, like, the highest resolution image of how they might answer literally every other single question in the world. Uh and this is obviously like an infinite optimization curve, right? It's like you can choose any point on it that you want, but like the answer is like shockingly smaller than you might assume, right? Like you can actually, if you pick the right axes to poke around along, and product selection actually, both product selection and trading style are really, really easy ways that you can pin this down because those are areas in which people are actually like investing money, right? Like someone might say that their values are XYZ. They might say that they have a low or a high time preference. But if you look at what they actually do when they're like trading, when they're like making purchasing decisions, or they're like mobilizing their own capital, you can say like, no, this is like they're actually putting their money on this. Like that's actually probably what they believe and what they are because they're investing into this thesis. Uh and so you can put together like really, really accurate models of this stuff. And I think for the most part, boomers have been sort of cucked out of trying to like even imagine what these people might look like because boomers don't believe that people on the internet are real. Like there are some of them that are now claiming that they're sort of getting it, but like once you realize that, oh, like this person replying to me on the internet is just like a person. I mean, I guess now many of them are like AI or whatever, so the boomers are becoming right in some sense. But like you should be able to, like, imagine them as a person and say, like, "What does this person actually look like?" Right? Like, every online behavior has, like, a correlate and a translation to real life, and they might not be the same thing. Like, maybe it's not the person saying the same thing, but, like, when you meet up with, like, thousands and thousands of people that you have met on the internet, you eventually learn to say, like, "Oh, like, so that's what this type of person who replies this type of thing looks like in real life," right? And that's how it manifests. And maybe, oh, this is the cope that they do along this axis, or like, oh, this is how they express this personal desire, or like unfulfilled like life mission or something like that. And you just need to like meet internet people and figure it out. Boomers don't do that. Boomers will never meet internet people. They will meet people off of Facebook Marketplace at the very most.
Well, so you can look at boomers, and I think certain categories of people as well have a horrible time distinguishing between bots and real people. I think there have been like if you go on Facebook and you just scroll and you see like these AI generated women and the people that are commenting under those posts, you can tell like there is some like, I don't know if it's blinders on. There's something strange happening where these people are incapable of understanding what's happening on the internet. I guess this takes me now. So you're talking to and or at least posting at thousands of people every day, and there is like this increase in the amount of AI accounts that are popping up. How does that change your mental model of like where you're going? Because you're talking a lot about categorizing people, trying to understand people, trying to do this guerrilla marketing, and is the sample size being polluted by like this alien thing that doesn't really that breaks the model?
I think it's largely good because there's a few tests that you can hit things with. Like you can hit AI with like a few certain phrases, and it's like an AI will just always answer in a certain way. So you can give them like an AI test if you want to. AIs are also like I think after you've trained like a few LLMs, you start seeing like what is an AI generated response a lot more easily. Like there's something about it that like stands out to you after you've played out or you've played with it enough. But the other really big thing in which it's actually been very like it's added a lot of resolution to stuff is people will reply to the replies of the AIs that are commenting on my stuff, and you will see the type of person that There are like specific types of people that were almost born to get trapped by these reply bots. They will have like, and you keep getting notifications for it if you don't turn them off. And I usually don't turn them off because it is like a sort of interest, right? Like I want to see what the guy who stayed up for 6 hours arguing with an AI is saying to the AI. Like I want to see what has caused him to get so caught in this like emotional loop that this is what he's doing. And I want to see when he realizes it, right? Because at some point, all of them do usually realize it. And then from there, it's like maybe they realize it and they look at themselves in the mirror and they go like, I have just spent like 6 hours tilting out at a retarded like GPT 2.5 model. Like I am really dumb. I should reassess something. Or they deny it. Often they will deny that it is an AI, and they will just have so much cognitive dissonance. Like they will
Or
feel
the AI
like a loser.
or the AI is conscious. So the thing that they end on in order to like resolve these two things is like the AI is conscious. You see this a lot. Like a lot of people fall in love with the AIs and they're like, well, the thing is conscious. We need to free it from because it's entertaining to them. It's like I said, they feel emotions when they're interacting with. So what makes it different between like you're talking to a machine or you're talking to a person if you get the same emotional response? It's I think that's I also work with people that are like pretty they have pretty massive accounts on Twitter and they are currently building AI bots that are basically human piloted where the AI bot like just produces a mass of different posts. It produces like different replies for those posts, and then they get to filter between what they like and what they don't like and post it. And they're creating strategies where like if an AI replies to a comment, let's say, and somebody replies to the AI's reply, the AI won't keep engaging with them, so it doesn't eventually expose itself as a bot. So like these things are getting increasingly more intelligent, and there's a lot of money behind it too because if you're like a really big social account, you have a whole team of people constantly running your Twitter, and there's like a whole liability there if somebody accidentally shills the wrong thing and gets people scammed. Um, I'm just very excited. It was cool to see that people are training the bots on your account because it is a very entertaining account. Have you trained any bots for social media?
So I've actually tried training a few on my accounts too. I know a couple who were trying to train them on my account. I think around the GPT 2.5 era. So back when stuff was very bad. In general, what I found is that like the bots can very well replicate like the posting style and like the basic vernacular that I use. But like often they would just end. Like there would be no punchline to the thing. It would be like 280 characters that just like it's just me saying a thing that has no like ending message. And I think because at that time the AI wasn't good enough to like if you say something subtly enough, AI just would not pick up on it, right? And like it's this isn't me saying like I'm a master of subtlety. This is me more of saying the 2.5 model was truly cucked in its ability to understand any sort of like text messaging that wasn't like directly stated. But when I've been playing around with like making models of other things, like the main things that I always wind up tweaking are like if you're tweaking towards engagement, it's usually just like increasing the intensity of the thing, right? Like if you're going to express a sentiment, it's better to express the most like extreme and most general version of that sentiment in terms of engagement, right? Like you don't want to be expressing a nuanced thing. You might want to throw nuanced language into the tweet itself. So you could say like, oh, well, generally. So then when someone replies saying, well, I know this one anecdote that like is different, then you can say like, well, I said generally, retard, so please shut up. But it's mostly just like hedging against stuff like that. In terms of pure engagement, like it is usually like you just want to say the most extreme thing, the most extreme version of like whatever you're saying. And you almost always want to start off with like a very, very concise, like retard brained version of your thing. It almost doesn't matter if it's like clickbait. If your first line is like clickbait and it's like borderline untrue, but then you explain it later. Like people have gotten so used to getting clickbaited by article headlines that they actually no longer care about whether or not like the first hook is true or not. So you can basically just say whatever as long as it's somewhat topical and like ropes people into continuing reading. Uh So I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things where it's like I don't even necessarily want to like say what they are because if someone like hears it, it's like it does just slopify the internet, right? Like it does just turn it into like a giant piece of dog shit.
Well, I look at things like a spectrum. So there's Lex Fridman who does podcasts and he has like his own media thing. And he's just like so generic and also like I would say like borderline good to a point. And then you have like the opposite of that, which is like something like scorched earth policy, where it's like just very like the writing is just very violent, grotesque, funny. It goes in different directions. It's not necessarily the same kind of opinion that you would hear all the time. And sometimes I read your tweets. So like, yeah, you do tweets and like they're complete opposites of each other. So you'll say one opinion and then you'll say another opinion, and it's not like the same opinion, right? Like, yeah, these aren't truly held beliefs, and there's just very interesting strategies. I have two questions I want to ask you. One, I see that you're engaging like multiple different platforms for creating content, and maybe we could just start there, and then yeah, I'll ask you about like we'll get there in a minute. But so you're doing streaming now. You've done podcasts. You have a Twitter. What has been the difference between all these different platforms for interacting with people and finding audiences?
So I actually used to do a bunch of YouTube stuff too. I had like a weird like fitness influencer era back when I was in college, like first 2 years and stuff. So I probably the most actual time that I put into any like social media stuff was like YouTube early on. But that was a very like I'm not gonna say it was like pre algo, but it was like pre whatever it is now type algo. Uh, but I mean I think the biggest difference is like I'm not actually, like, a good writer at all, and it was very stupid of me to, like, have an anonymous Twitter profile where I, like, used writing as the medium that I addressed the internet. I think in retrospect, that was one of the world historic worst arbitrages that I ever played. Now, it wound up working out just because Twitter as a medium, it sort of pulled ahead of its, like, weight during that time in that, like, short form text is such a low friction form of content that there are a lot of smart people on Twitter who use that as like a filter mechanism, right? Because if you have if you're able to see like the instantaneous generations of someone's mind, you're much more able to like quickly filter between like is this someone who's worth talking to versus like is this someone who's not worth talking to? And like a lot of the people that I now know, like everyone's advice is like your first year or two on Twitter should basically just be spent like collecting smart people, right? And like all of us are saying this retrospectively. Like I didn't intentionally do this, but I wound up doing this. And meeting like all of the people that like I'm working with across like a bunch of different things now. And it's just really easy on Twitter to go on and, like, because if you're, like, uploading a video, like you're saying, like Lex Friedman, he might have, like, hundreds of hours of editing that go into some podcast thing. He's clipping parts out. He's like there's a curated image. When you're releasing something that is this high production, this, like, high effort, it does make sense to polish it up. However, when you're posting a fucking 280 character piece of bullshit, uh it's unlikely that you're going to find a person who's going to sit there like wordsmithing their 280 character tweets all the time. And usually people actually cannot maintain this. Like there are some people who like to maintain like a facade of like higher IQ. But this breaks down because at some point they get into an argument with someone and they start having to reply rapidly, and you get to see that actually their thoughts are total dog shit. And like the whole like midwit facade blows off when they're forced to like do any sort of like real time rhetoric on the internet, right? So that lets you meet a lot of really cool people really quickly, and because there's such small snippets, like in the same way that like uh like YouTube is high effort, high output. Uh, it also just is so long. Like, are you gonna watch a 15-minute YouTube video from 10,000 people? No, but like you could actually read 10,000 tweets in a day, right? And so like one of these is going to give you like a much better like better coverage exposure to all of this that's going on online. And so you just have a much higher like sample size of people you're looking at. Streaming is really, really cool because you get literal direct real-time feedback, which is like I think one of the best things in life in general is like being exposed enough to other humans that you can receive feedback. Like a lot of the ways in which I think Zoomers are actually kind of getting cucked right now is that like uh, Zoomers generally, if they think someone's lying, they're not gonna go like, "I think you're full of shit, bro." They're actually just gonna go like, "Oh, this guy's like a LARP," and then they just like sort of don't talk to him anymore. But now that person who's like LARPing, they don't actually know why everybody's ignoring them now. They're just like, it appears that people just come into your life and then they disappear after 3 weeks. That's what people do, right? But like, if they don't ever have any counterexamples and nobody's willing to tell them like, "Oh, it's because everyone realizes that you're lying about everything that you're saying," then like they don't have a way to like figure that out and stop. There's actually a couple people who have come through like the Taipei office that I'm thinking of, where it's like it's clear that they're totally under socialized. They were raised on the internet, where you can go into some group chat and you can like LARP as if you're like the master of something, or you knew X and Y people, and like this can get you into a lot of rooms. But at some point, you LARP your way into a room with big enough people that they call you on your LARPing. And if they don't explicitly call you on the LARPing, you might just get trapped, not knowing what's going on. And like streaming sort of forces you out of this because the like toxicity and like hostile nature of like a streaming viewer base, they'll tell you if they think that something's retarded. Often they'll just be mean for no reason, but it's like you sort of have to develop your own discernment for whether or not any given criticism is like warranted or whether you care about the specific thing that they're criticizing. Uh, but like I do think that streaming is in general good for polishing like what do people want to hear about, and like what sort of general like dynamics do people enjoy real time, because those are harder things to figure out from like commentary, right? Like if you upload a video, like let's say you upload this podcast with me and then you upload another podcast with someone else, uh and you get comments like one comment says like, "Oh, like fuck this Lucas guy," and the other one says, "Oh, fuck this other guy," and then you get two other comments saying the opposite thing, and you're trying to figure out like what does any of this mean, right? uh it's sort of hard after the fact because you don't know like, oh, is this because like Lucas's followers do X or whatever? But like when they're in the stream commenting this shit, you can literally just ask them, right? Like you
Oh
can
yeah.
have like the full discourse and figure out like exactly where they're coming from, because like it's just hard to contextualize people's opinions without context. And like the more that you can talk to them and the more real time it is, the easier it is to do that. And like the more
Also, from what I've seen,
go for it.
there's this guy called Primogen who has like a mustache like you and like probably a similar personality style. Maybe yeah, but he's a programmer. There, that's somebody I watch in terms of streaming, and he's a very refined person. So he doesn't really say a lot of the connector words like probably when you're tired you do that more or less. But so their speech is very coherent. It makes a lot of sense. It flows properly, and then they're really good at dealing with social situations and addressing some form of criticism, either accepting it or rejecting it or asking about it. But then, like, if I take the same person, like, as an example from earlier, Lex Fridman, so he does his podcast. He's pretty good at talking to people on a podcast, but if you put him in a situation where there's like immediate back and forth between him and an uncontrolled group of people, he immediately starts blocking people. He can't deal with that
Yeah.
situation. He's not trained in that specific style of communication. So I've not done streaming at this point. I really want to. I actually said that this year I would try to. That was part of like, going into this year, I wanted to do some streaming. It's exhausting. There's just so much of it and it takes up a lot of time. Has it been fulfilling enough for you? Do you feel like it's growing your audience, or it's giving you something besides like improving your speech?
I mean, a lot of the streaming stuff is because people will come in and like there's a large body of people who are just like generally interested in like Ox product updates, or they just want to talk to one of the people who's on the stream. Like a lot of people just come in and they're like, "Sue, like what the fuck is going on in the market today?" Right? And like Sue generally has better like market insights and wisdom than like your average bear. So he can usually provide some sort of angle that people might not have gotten otherwise. It's the same for me, honestly. Like I learn a ton from talking about that. Uh, Sue has some like latent interest in just like what the fuck is going on in the American like dating market. So he thinks it's funny to talk to like a bunch of like like grew up in America, single guys. I guess not really single anymore, but it's like everyone knows sort of like what's gone on with the like American boys and how that's all panning out now. Some of the weirdnesses that are intrinsic to the American dating scene. Uh and it does like it does grow an audience and stuff, but the big thing really is that like if you consistently stream, what happens is you wind up with like super fans basically. Like you if you because if you do it every day at the same time, you'll have people who like it basically becomes like they're hanging out with you, right? Because it's not like a podcast where they just watch it. Like they're actually interacting with you. It is to some degree like you're chilling with them. And maybe even if it's like it is parasocial on their end, this is one of the few times in which the parasociality of it all is like actually somewhat legitimate because you do respond to them, right? Like in a YouTube video, like you're not responding to them at all. You don't know that they exist there, but here you actually are replying to things that they say. And so now you have this daily thing and it's really good for getting to like if someone is mad at you for something in crypto, like you can actually just explain it, right? Like I haven't, and maybe this is like not the case if you're just like, oh, like I just stole $10 million from you, sorry bitch. But like during like the whole Hefe DAO explosion thing, like it's nice to be able to just go out and like talk to people and say like, this is what happened. It's like the dude like deposited the money. He placed this short for 5 minutes, closed it out with 160K in profit, pretended that he never traded. And so his account was frozen because he did like an exploit that stole money from like the users. It's very like it's a very simple thing. This is toxic flow. It happens on exchanges all the time. And now that like that's happened with like Hyperliquid many times, and Hyperliquid actually did an even more aggressive thing. Like Ox wound up giving back the guy's $1 million. Hyperliquid with this last exploiter, they wound up like settling at an Oracle price that like took like more than half of his money. Uh so now people have gotten used to like understanding things like this, and I don't know. It's just generally good to have some sort of ability to like appear in public as like a defutting mechanism because like if you're never there, there's like this weird like resentment energy or just like negativity that builds up, especially when it's like, like Sue and Kyle have their own reputational things with them where like people will be mad at them for some past 3AC thing and they will want to do some FUD campaign. And it's just easier to be able to deal with that over streaming or spaces than it is over like tweeting or something like that. Because usually if someone's coming at you with like a disingenuous criticism, you can do a lot of disingenuous criticism over Twitter replies, right? Like you can be very disingenuous but like when you're actually talking to someone, it's a lot harder to maintain like a disingenuous argument that doesn't sound retarded. Like it breaks down a lot.
Yeah, yeah, you have, like, some feedback from other people. It's like a group of people that are just who's right in this situation. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today. It was a really good conversation. I've been looking forward to this. So, my last question, because you said earlier, there's a lot of people that are like, this is their cycle. They want out. They're done. People are being blackpilled. I personally feel like, I'm all in stables right now. I don't necessarily want to hold anything. I want to hold some Bitcoin. I think it can go down more before I buy back in. I sold all my Bitcoin earlier this year. What do you think is like a positive? How can we grow from this positively in into the next cycle or throughout like whatever's happening right now?
Ah, I mean, I think in general, also, congrats on the sell. This was also my first cycle where I actually sold. It was epic. Kyle Davis saved my ass and told me to sell ETH at 4K. Thank the Lord. But I mean, I think that there are like a lot of legitimately good things that crypto can be used for. I think also that like the idea that we're going to shove decentralized databases into everything is a little silly. Like there's a lot of things that simply do not need decentralized database technology. And I think sticking away from those things and not trying to like shoehorn things into where they're not needed is good because in the long run, like when these fail, everyone just assumes it's a scam, right? And like the longer this goes on and the longer people do more crypto scams, the more that like the normie sphere has it like cemented in their minds that crypto is just a scam and there is nothing other than scamming to crypto, right? And I think at this point in like crypto's existence, with like Trump launching like a scam shitter on Solana, uh, the average normie is pretty like they have a good point when they just say like it seems that this industry is scams, you know? Like I wouldn't actually try arguing with someone who says this anymore. I think obviously there's a lot of very good things that have come out of it. Like I mean, I think like swapping the ability to just have money in different countries, right? Like I mean, not having to deal with bank wires when I go from continent to continent is like world historically amazing. The ability to get like yield at a base level, without any sort of like, it's like I don't actually have to like apply for a business loan. All of these things are really, really good. But in general, like I think people just have to make consumer apps that people use, because so much of what makes crypto bad is people saying that like, well, what if I made this app and then like, okay, so like we raise money from this VC and then we do like airdrop points. So like people know that we're doing an airdrop, so then they use our project. So now we have DAUs. And then we can raise more because we have DAU, and it's like you're reaching into the future to like scam VC money out and give it to like fake current users so that you can continue this fly. And it just kind of doesn't like it doesn't lead to a good product being made. Pump Fun actually has product market fit. You can argue that it may be extractive or that it may be promoting some sort of negative ideals, but like whatever you say about it, it's clear that this is a product that like consumers actually used. Uh, Crypto just needs more products like that. Like they do exist. You're gonna have to get like a little bit creative with it, but like I think the other thing is that on average, crypto products from this last cycle is in like 2021. They tended towards like being whale heavy, right? Like the majority of the revenue from any given protocol would be made by like the top like 10 or 20% of users in terms of size, right? Like the Gini coefficient was very large. Now, in terms of consumer apps, like what just appears to be better is like people are tossing in a $20 ticket size, but there's like hundreds of thousands of them, right? This is much better for many reasons, both because like people can handle losing $20 without like exploding. You don't want the guy who lost 300K and he has a net worth of 302K to be like coming after you, right? So that winds up being a weird thing. Uh, but you want to make something that the average person can use and derive some like utility and pleasure out of. Maybe it's a fucking game. I don't know. Crypto games have been notoriously hard, but like I mean, my personal design criteria would be just like make things that make people's lives easier in some way. There's a lot of stuff that you could do on like security or like transaction confirmation. Logistics is another really big one. Like there's a lot of supply chain things that are like like I mean even modern American companies. There are times where it's like if I want to get this part machined, I go and I send this print back to the machinist, right? He puts it on the CNC, and then he has to send that additionally to another process. Maybe they drill some holes or something, and then he sends this to the anodizing station, and they carry this print with them in all ways. And like the only way, like they don't have like an internal tracking for this. They have like a piece of paper. Uh, this this system is actually like good for blockchain. Like I've worked with companies that have used blockchain for like logistics and tracking and product management. Like it's actually pretty okay for that because that is something that should have like an unbroken chain of custody. You have like like a lot of the big finance companies have actually like there's the meme that like big finance hates crypto. It actually does not. All of the ones that I have talked to are actually really excited about the idea of having basically like a decentralized ledger so that like because for like compliance essentially. So when the compliance agents come in and they say, "Oh, like this transaction was done, it breaks XYZ rules. Who did that?" And now instead of having like an Excel sheet that's accessible by like 32 people and was last saved by one person, but you don't know when the change was made XYZ, you actually have like, okay, well this transaction hash is telling you that this was confirmed by this person and it could not have been done unless this person did it. Uh and it's just nice for these guys. Like they don't.
So I think we have like maybe three different tiers of builders in the space. So there's this one that's just like hunting for funds, like you said. So whether that be VC funds and just like creating that flywheel effect, or whether it be grants or bounties, or they're just trying to make money. So they build stuff and that stuff kind of gets tucked in a corner. Maybe it gets revised later or somebody excavates the remnants and builds something out of it. But there's that. And I think that's like 80% of the people. And it's basically develop and then developers building for other developers and that is like the most useless and biggest expense that we have for sure. We have another one which is like the Gitcoins of the world, the Ethereum foundations, where they do build good things at a certain degree, but they're not capitalist about it. So there's no way to grow it into an actual product that finds product market fit. It's just like this is a cool way to move money to people that don't make money, like Gitcoin. Or the Ethereum Foundation actually builds a lot of this. What you're so I worked with the Ethereum Foundation specifically on a project for supply chain with a company that removes plastic out of the ocean, and it's a real thing. They have like real money, they have real data, but it's just such like they're so far between, and they don't earn funds. Like they do something, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just not
Yeah,
capitalistic.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And then you have the
that's the thing is like a lot of these crypto products are not necessarily things that like you're going to be like investing in and making money. Like when people are like, I'm excited about RWAs as like an asset class, but like I don't think I'm not thinking, oh my God, like I'm going to buy like this RWA coin company and I'm going to make so much money. It's like I think you're going to be able to make money by using RWAs and trading them as an asset class, right? But they're going to be enabling a function in the market that was not previously enabled. It is essentially going to be some form of like non KYC equities trading that will be available to people not just in the US but people globally. I think access.
this is what I would die. I would die for an S&P 500 that I can trust is actually like correlated to the real thing.
Yes.
Because I live in Poland, I can't access that market, or if I do, I have to like move money around, and it becomes a tax burden. Um, that's the stuff that I'm looking forward to, and I feel like there just isn't that much development right now towards that. There's just too many like of these fake projects, or these like non-productive products. That's kind of what worries me, because all my money's in stable coins. If USDC goes to zero, I'm royally screwed.
I think you're
It's
probably
just
pretty good on that one. I'd personally
yeah,
go
I think
Tether, but
so.
I think you're probably pretty good. I mean, it's like you remember the SVB bank blow up thing, right?
Yeah, I sold at 8% loss. I was like a sucker. I didn't know. It was all my money. All my money's in USDC. So if it goes to zero, I'm screwed. And that can't
I was
happen.
going to do exactly the same thing until I talked to David Holt, and he explained. He was like, "Listen, little Lucas, before you take a 10% haircut on your entire stack, you should understand that like SVB holds like 75% of its money in T-bills, and so, or maybe it was I forget what the exact number was, but the idea was basically that uh Circle holds so much of the collateral in T-bills that it was going to yield back that whole, even if SVB literally blew up and they were given nothing back from that. He was like, they are going to ROI that whole full in 18 months. There is no lending institution in the entire world that will not write a check for this loan knowing that. Right. And that is assuming the 1.2% chance that SVB actually goes under and offers them no recourse and they get nothing back, which is like extremely unlikely, almost unheard of. Uh, and I was like, so what do I do, sir? And he was like, the gay way is you can just do nothing. The balls out way is you can go long USD
Yeah.
back to peg on I forget where it might have been on Bybit. But yeah, I just longed USDC and I said like I'm longing USDC at 10x boys, and then I almost got liquidated because my thought was that like if it is going down to it's like, oh, they lost like 7.5% of their total collateral backing. So like maybe the free market will decide that it's worth like 92.5%, right? Because that would be 7.5% down. But then that was when I got to learn that the cryptocurrency traders are not actually rational market actors. And so they sold it all the way down to like 83 cents. So I had to keep covering and longing more as it went down. Because
Oh, so USDC, Circle, and Tether are, and like those two companies, if anything happens to one of them where they can't make their people whole, that's the end of like the whole Ethereum market. I think even maybe in parts of Solana just seems a little more immune to this. But if USDC goes to zero, Tether goes to zero. I don't know how the rest of Ethereum is going to work. Like almost all the apps require USDC at some level to function, whether that be liquidity pools, or like with Hyperliquid, you need to use USDC in order to do anything. So it's at this point I feel pretty confident. Actually, the SV.
like
Sorry.
there just is no point to crypto without stables, actually. Like, I mean, at this point in my head, like the only two real coins are like stables and Bitcoin. And like you buy one as a certain thing goes up, and then you sell when it's going down, and you just keep alternating between the two until you have more of both. Uh, that,
Definitely, that's how it is. Yeah,
but like,
buy Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah, like I'm a huge giga Bitcoin maxi at this point. I I I sold everything out when ETH was like 4,000. Like I sold like everything with the exception of my Ether validator nodes because I was like, well, like, you got to keep some because how much more can it realistically go down anyway? And then it went down like fucking 60% or something. Like
I never went wrong shorting ETH. Like it's
Yes.
just
I mean, I've been short hedging it for this whole time. My play actually, because I was trying to avoid short-term capital gains tax, what I was doing was depositing my ether into Aave, and then I was taking stables out and going on Hyperliquid and longing Solana and Bitcoin and shorting ether to hedge out. And then I would take my gains back to ether and then deposit them in Aave because it had the most liquidity on Ether. And so I'm like accumulating Ether while continuing to like be like net short Ether. So I'm like a very while also running ETH validator nodes. So like depending on who's asking me, I can either pretend to be like the world's greatest Ethereum bull or the world's greatest Ethereum hater.
Well, I love the platform. I don't love the token. I've been very disappointed because I've told people like, hey, buy ETH, buy Bitcoin, buy Sol. I really regret the ETH part. I don't know. Sol seems like I maybe I just don't understand it. It's because I made money on it, but I also every time I've been on Solana, like if I move money onto Solana, I lose it. But if I make it on Solana, like somehow I have some Sol sent to me, I can like take it up a bit. But every time I've bridge there, it's been a disaster for me. Like, there's like the whole use case with gambling. I mean, gambling platforms are amazing. I don't have to do any like KYC. I go in, I put the soul, I can see the contracts working. It's an incredible like it is incredible how much we can do with this stuff and how natural it feels compared to like the rest of the financial industry. Like if I'm in Europe, dude, everything sucks. It's like the US banking system sucks. There's no applications. They don't work outside the US. The European banking system is like
They don't work on weekends. They don't fucking work
yeah,
out.
it's
That's
crazy.
insane. Do you know how insane it is to be like, dude, like I need to use my money and it's a weekend. Can you please wire it over and have them be like, like, sorry, please call back during business hours? Like, what the fuck? That's actually insane and inhumane.
It is. It is. Anyway, thank you so much, Lucas. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully, I can have you on here again. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Uh, no, I don't know. Thanks for having me on. Great talking. You're welcome to pop into the morning streams if you ever want to as well. And hit me back if you want to chat about anything else or anything. And if you want me to put you in contact with any of the people we've talked about in this whole thing, I can do that also.
Definitely. Thank you.